Before we get right into it, I just wanted to say thank you to our sponsor for the video today, which is Reroll.co. You're going to hear more about that later. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, what is the silliest D&D character you've ever made? Part 1. My silliest character was also my most broken. He was a 2nd edition wild mage crafted using the Player's Option series splat books. While these books added all kinds of awesome options, and combat and tactics provided a badly needed boost to fighters, there wasn't even a semblance of balance. My character had access to most schools of magic. I had to drop a couple to put points elsewhere, but I kept the most important ones. Pre-spells from the healing sphere, could wear armor, and used a D6 instead of D4 for hit points. He also had the merchant kit. I convinced the DM that instead of owning a storefront, I should have a wagon so I could be a mobile merchant. That's where the silliness started. Right there at level 1 because the DM let me have a wagon and mules. Every place we went to got cleaned out. I don't mean the normal looting that is expected in D&D. I mean we cleaned out entire dungeons. We didn't loot the chest, we took the chest with. And the table, and the chairs, literally everything that was not a corpse, and sometimes even those if they were exotic creatures that might have valuable pieces we could harvest, got loaded into the wagon and brought back to town to sell. But it didn't end there. As a wild mage, there was a chance of having a wild surge whenever I cast a spell. Instead of the boring D100 chart that was the standard, we found a chart online that had 1,000 results, or it may have been 10,000, this was a long time ago. So we used that instead, oh boy. One time I tried to cast Fireball and instead streamers shot out of my hands. Another time I tried to charm someone and a Ford pickup truck appeared. I also had some fun with my spells. I created a welding torch spell. I then used that spell to weld together the chainmail worn by another character, basically imprisoning him in his own armor. I cut him loose after a bit, of course. Another time we were about to charge into a room when I suggested that the ranger go first. That should have been a warning sign since he was an archer and the Minotaur fighter was our tank, but he went charging in anyway. There were 2 Death Knights in the room. I shut the door and cast a ward on it that prevented it from being open. We let him back out a round later when he was almost dead. In fact, none of my antics ever got a character killed. That's surprising. I kept playing up the merchant bit as I grew in levels and funds. The DM made the mistake of telling me that I could hire whatever NPCs I wanted so long as I paid them according to the DMG. The look on her face was priceless when at the start of a game session, I inquired as to how much my zoo and my traveling circus had been making. The worst part, though, was that as a wild mage, I had an ability that gave me a 50% chance to control the effect of any magic item that normally had a random effect. Well, we got our hands on a deck of many things. This is a powerful artifact that offers really strong rewards with the right cards, but with the wrong cards, things could go really wrong. In most campaigns, the risks cause players to avoid using it or maybe take 1 or 2 draws before stopping. In addition, I had a spell called Alternate Reality, which basically turned back time and undid the last round. So if I failed to control the deck and got a bad result, I undid it. With control of the deck, well, things got a bit out of hand. We all ended up with our own castles, our own loyal NPC henchmen, we all had our charisma bumped up to 18, we had a stash of Fates benefits, we got a bunch of magic items and XP, and we all ended up with a stash of unused wishes. Things escalated quickly. The only way to really stop us was to throw gods at us, so we decided to storm the home plane of the campaign's pantheon and slay all the deities. And that's pretty much when the campaign died. Hey everyone, Brian here, bringing you today's sponsor, Reroll.co. Many of us in the world want to see our D&D characters come to life in a variety of art styles, but not all of us are good at drawing. Fortunately, our friends at Reroll are here to help. Reroll is a character building app that allows you to build your D&D character in an 8-bit pixel art style using the 5th edition SRD content, while giving them a name, a brief biography, items that you can customize yourself, pets, and much more. With a growing selection of new races and other ways to customize your character, this app just keeps on giving. The best part is that it works on web browsers as well as iOS and Android, so desktop users, you got in, baby. I've been playing with it for about an hour or so myself, making characters for future games, but there is one that you might recognize from a certain D&D stream we did. Yep, that's Greg, or number 22, the half-orc barbarian in half-plate mithril armor with his long pike. Welcome to the 8-bit pixel world, eh, old pal? Anyway, make sure to check out Reroll, and if you do, be sure to show us your creations, as we'd love to see them. Now, let's get right back into the meat and taters of this video, shall we? My campaign is littered with them. My first was Winston Wilberforce, a lawful, neutral human monk that wore standard Buddhist monk gear, but with boots instead of sandals. And although he had shaved hair, he had a mustache and half-moon glasses. Now, he was my first character in my current campaign, introduced in the second session. He interrupted a fight between the other players and 3 goblins. He referred to the bad guys as the Goblin Horde. After much ridicule, I decided on the spot that Winston had hysteria and spent the rest of the session acting hammy. I went on holiday, and by the time I came back, I decided to make another character. Winston's still running around the campaign as an NPC. My next character was Theodoric Winterfrost, a chaotic neutral, now chaotic good, human wizard that, although being a diviner, mainly had evocation spells. He met with the party in the Feywild and made an over-the-top, dramatic introduction, which he repeats to any NPC that asks his name ever since. He started adventuring to write a book, but soon found himself embroiled in the demonic conspiracy that is the campaign's main plot. I got foreshadowing in the form of visions that came to me in my sleep. He managed to derail the plot several times. He, along with Garrison Gray, my younger brother's neutral, evil human ranger from the Old West, amazingly the most sensible character in the campaign as of yet, went through a cult's portal to the Abyss, leading to a plot arc that the DM had to make up on the spot. He attacked a hag that was obviously important to the plot, who was giving a mission and burnt down her treehouse with his fireball spells. He and the rest of the party started a fight against a monolith, a near-suicidal idea for a bunch of 8th level adventurers, rather than give in temporarily. We won due to sheer luck. He started out as a comedic relief side character, famed for his sarcasm, cowardice, recklessness, and arrogance, but eventually matured to become the party's leader and, as of writing, the longest surviving current party member. This campaign has a high PC mortality rate. This guy wasn't mine, but still was pretty silly. Adran the Axe Wielder, chaotic neutral, sometimes chaotic evil, half-elf barbarian. The leader of the party before Theodoric, despite having only 6 intelligence, he was leader for splitting an arrow in half with his axe as it was rushing towards him. He spoke in broken common. His non-elf parent was a dwarf, and he had a big grudge on elves, so he massacred whole villages of them in the Feywild. Also, he was a zealot barbarian who worshipped Ares. He eventually stayed behind in the Abyss to try and conquer it. He rolled mad ambition on the abyssal corruption table, which was supposed to be a setup for a solo campaign between his player and the DM, which hasn't happened yet. Nowadays, 6 intelligence is still used as a baseline for measuring stupidity among our group, and when we find an incredibly stupid creature in the monster manual, we remark that it's got lower intelligence than Adran. Was running a game once that included my next door neighbor and 4 other friends from the company I worked at back then. His brother came to town for an extended visit. He had never played before, but was intrigued. His brother was younger, early 20s, and was definitely born in the wrong era. He would have been truly in his era in the 60s. A hippie through and through. Cool guy, super laid back. So I helped him roll up a character so he could try his hand at it. The rest of the group took it pretty seriously and specifically didn't have comic relief style characters. But that's just who this guy was. Even though it wasn't a great fit for the campaign, we headed off in that direction, and the fighter, Ace Kickaxe, was born. He didn't actively roleplay much, but did offer a variety of funny commentary and was quick with the comic quips in-game and in character, which usually had everybody clutching their sides in laughter. His peak performance, though, came when his brother's character, a wizard, got captured by the Gnoll chieftain, who was one of the middling villains they were up against. They were out searching. Gnoll warband comes up on them, leader out front, holding on to his brother who is in chains. Orders the party to surrender. Party thief whispers to Ace that he needs a distraction. Couple minutes should be enough. Ace nods and winks. "I got this," he says in reply. And then, we were treated to one of the best few minutes of role-playing I've ever seen. Ace gets on one knee, hands outstretched, and starts falling all over himself, apologizing to the Gnoll chieftain for any and every sin the party may have ever committed, and invented several bizarre sins on the spot, apologizing for those too. "I hope you can forgive me for that one time we all got super drunk in the tavern over by the docks. You know the one, right? I'm sure I've seen you there before. Anyway, we all got super drunk and I wound up pissing at the fireplace and got some backsplash in the kettle of stew that was on the fire. And..." Before long, the Gnoll chieftain grew impatient and threw his hands up, ordering them to lay down their weapons. Okay, Ace says as he reaches for the axe strapped to his back. "But just so you know, I don't really know." Gestures to the rest of the party. "Those punk dog motherfuckers very well, so whatever your beef is with them." And then he hurls his axe straight into the chest of the Gnoll as the thief takes advantage of the chaos and springs his trap. Ace was kind of a legend after that, and we made t-shirts with what became his signature phrase, "Those punk dog motherfuckers." Edit. He fought the rest of the battle with the sword at his belt, and after the party beat the stuffing out of the Gnolls, he walked up to the chieftain, now deceased, grabbed the keys to the manacles binding his brother's character and said, "And I think you're holding my axe. Gonna need that back too." Then spit on him. Silliest and most obscenely dangerous, arguably most powerful, and by far most fun. Stein, pronounced Stein, with a bit of drunken inflection. You see, Stein comes from a long line of drinkware-affiliated line of mischievous men of his race. His grandfather Flagon, oh my god, this is gold, was one of the greatest tricksters to ever go down in leprechaun history. As such, Stein had vast boots to fill with his wee feet. He left home to hone his craft at a young age, and found he had an aptitude for prestidigitation. You know, spellcraft or wizardry if you prefer. Aside from the fantastic abilities all of his kind held, Stein found magical tombs simply made sense to him. So, he spent decades sneaking in and out of places where he could find information on where such tombs might be perused. He found and copied them into his fantastic book, which he kept well hidden, almost more carefully than his pot of gold. He frequently was found harassing adventuring parties whilst invisibly following and helping them out. Think Wheelie from the original Transformers animated movie, except a drunken Scottish accent. His skills grew substantially after his deal to be the advanced scout for a group questing through Dragon Mountain. You see, as a prankster, he'd mastered his innate skills of invisibility and polymorphing objects. Unfortunately for the loads of poison-wielding kobolds and their traps, his favorite trick was to polymorph the ground into other objects. He habitually polymorphed patches of the ground under their unsuspecting chieftains into lava or acid pits. And unfortunately, he'd rigged the exits the same way. You see, he advanced scouted ahead of the party, and single-handedly went on a genocidal mission to off all the kobolds. After all, they were too stupid to laugh at his jokes or find humor in his pranks. When he found the dragon, well, he knew he was in for a fight. But thankfully, the dragon didn't. First, poly the floor around the legs to quicksand so they sink in. Then, poly to steel to trap the dragon stationary. Then, well, stalactites are no one's friend. It hurts when you have one break off and hit you in the head, especially when it turns into a giant Acme safe on its way to the ground from a few hundred feet up. Unfortunately for the dragon, sleeping enemies don't get a chance to dodge. The dragon's awe-inspiring head became, well, a splat of chunky salsa. After Shine wandered through the trove, picking out magical tomes and stashing them for himself, he went back and led the party to the treasure, and giggled as they were both astonished and horrified at the mass murder that the wee floating Bierstein had committed. They quit caring when they divvied up the dragon's trove, but never thought of trying to trap him and force him to give up his pot of gold ever again. After all, if he could mangle a massive red dragon and come out unscathed, what horrors would they face? Before he was retired, he achieved max level as a wizard and had amassed quite the large library of magical books. Behind the scenes, Stein was the product of a bet that I couldn't take a first-level wizard, play him with a party on their approach to Dragon Mountain, and survive the mountain since I primarily DM'd and we were playing good old AD&D 2nd edition. The new DM agreed to let me play a leprechaun, and before the end of the mountain, had come to realize that a resourceful player who both knows the rules of the system, how to twist them to fit his will, and is a mischievous sort, can absolutely ruin any well-laid plans. As Dragon Mountain is meant to be a blender when dealing with 20th level characters. Once it was all over, the party had hit the point of being in love with the character and its antics. So we kept him in action and played him up through the levels. Hey everyone, Brian here. Welcome to all new and reoccurring subscribers, fans, and friends. If you're new, then please give us a sub and ring that bell. And if you liked the video, give us a big thumbs up too. It always helps. If you'd like to follow Ripper or Scott on Twitter, join his Discord or check out r/Mr. Ripper where you can submit your stories for us to read. Check the links in the description below. Alternatively, you can come join me on my Discord, Twitter, or YouTube, Brian Vaughn VA, where I stream games on Saturdays and make voice actor related content that I upload randomly. Links are in the description there too. And make sure to check out our pals at Reroll.co. They did darn good work on their app, and it's so simple and easy to use, and it works on browsers and everything else. So, I mean, it's perfect. I get use out of mine every time I have an urge to make a new character, so I love apps like this. This is perfect for me. Now, business talk out of the way, I just wanted to wish everyone well and hope that August is bringing you a wealth of love and happiness. I told you before, and I'll say it again, there's always going to be rain and storms, wind and clouds, but none of it's going to last forever. Like in all aspects of life, rain is needed to heal, to wash away poisons and toxins. And sunshine, it's gonna peek through the clouds again in no time to dry everything up and make it feel happy again. So, from me to you, just keep on talking to one another. Send a message to your parents, to your family in general, to your friends, to your loved ones, to your coworkers, anyone you know. Even just wave at your neighbors just one time a day. Make sure to take breaks from the world as much as you can. Plop on a mask, go out to the park for a bit, stay away from other people, just enjoy the sights. Listen to the birds chirping, listen to water rushing in creeks, wind rustling through the trees. Anything that you can do to get you away from the social world just for a little bit, and to revive your weary, weary soul. Thank you to all of you still out there working your butts off for us. I salute ya. And I'm right here with you, waiting to make sure you're okay when you get home. All the love from me to you. Please stay safe, keep on fighting, be happy, be kind, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.